Hi everyone, and welcome to Chapter 8, Part 2C, Control of the Heartbeat. I hope you guys are well and sane, and if you are a little bit behind, I hope you catch up soon, because I don't know, I think we'll be back in the classroom in like a month or two, which is very soon. It's faster than you think. So I hope you're prepared for that. Anyways, let's talk about control of the heartbeat. So last video we did atrial systole, ventricular systole, and diastole, and we sort of dissected it and saw what happened at each individual stage, right? But we didn't really talk about how it's controlled and what causes it to contract. The first thing to know about cardiac muscles are that they are myogenic. Myogenic means contraction is initiated by the muscles themselves, okay, and the nerves and fibers and the inside, and not from nervous impulses from the outside. So your brain doesn't tell your heart beat, like it doesn't, it just beats on its own. It has its own functional system. All it needs is oxygen and nutrients. Okay, so it's myogenic. Now, how is it initiated and coordinated? Now, there are electrical impulses, or what we call wave of excitations. You have to use these two terms, by the way, are passed through these three different tissues. Okay. Number one is the sinoatrial node, which is right here. You can see it here. This is the right atrium wall. So sinoatrial node. Number two is the atrioventricular node, which is between the atria and between the atria and the ventricle on the right side here. Number three is the Purkyne tissue. The Purkyne tissue is the ones at the wall of the ventricles. So let's see how the electrical impulse is passed and what happens at each stage. So at the sinoatrial node, which is at the right wall of the atrium here, this thing actually determines the rhythm of the heart. This is the pacemaker, which means it determines the rhythm of the heart. You might have heard this term in basketball games, I think, when we say a person is the pacemaker, means that he sort of dominates and sets the pace of the game. How fast it's going, when to attack, when to like relax and stuff like that. But this is the heart, okay? We call the sinoatrial node the pacemaker sometimes. And what it does is that it sends out these waves of excitation or electrical impulses which spread across the atria. And this spreading of impulses across the atria cause both atria to contract simultaneously. And therefore, when atria contract, you're right, it's called atrial systole. So it causes atrial systole. And this impulse actually doesn't cross over to the ventricles. It's not drawn here, but there is non-conducting tissue between the atria and ventricles. So imagine like a tissue, a band around the center here, which prevents the impulses from reaching the ventricle. So the waves of excitations can just spread in the atria, won't go to the ventricles. Which means during atrial systole, the atria is contracting, but the ventricles are not and are ready to receive that blood. They're not contracting at the same time. You don't want them to contract at the same time. It's going to be not good for your heart. Okay, and then after that, it gets passed, the impulse gets passed to AVN, the atrioventricular node, which is right here. It's found between the atria, as we talked about. And it also prevents atria and ventricles from contracting at the same time. It's called a relay station. You know, like a relay race where you pass the baton to someone and someone takes it and then runs, continue running. So atrioventricular node is like the in-between, right? And the relay station, the place where they pass the baton. So the relay station, it receives the signal, and then there is a time delay of 0.1 to 0.2 seconds. In the original slides I uploaded, there is a slight mistake here. I switched for 3 and 4. So if you have not realized, if you have downloaded previously, go and check to see what the difference is. The most recent, the uploaded copy of the slides have the most recent updates. Number 3, there is a time delay of 0.1 to 0.2 seconds. And this allows the atria to empty. And of course, ventricles to fill, and therefore prevents the atria and ventricles to contract at the same time. So once the blood gets all in around 0.1 to 0.3 seconds, then only the AVN would send the wave of excitations to the ventricles. You realize 0.1 to 0.3 seconds is a familiar duration, isn't it? That is because atrial systole is 0.1 seconds long. Anyways, AVN sends a wave of excitation to the ventricles, and this is past the Purkyne tissue. Actually, it goes down here. You can see here this area in the septum called bundle of His. This tissue, this conducting tissue here, called bundle of His, and then to the Purkyne tissue, or what we call the Purkinje fibers. Same thing, different name, same thing. Okay. Anyways, bundle of His is not really taught in A levels. I just thought you might want to know and not be confused. Anyways, Purkyne tissue is tiny bundles of connecting fibers. They are found at the base of the ventricles. Yeah, so at the walls here, outer walls. And what happens is the Purkyne tissue conducts this excitation from the base of the septum to the top. So it goes down and then goes back up, right? So it starts from the base first, Purkyne tissues, and goes up. Means when it's contracting, when the electrical impulse spreads, it's upwards, and therefore when it's contracting, it's from base upwards as well. So you can see here, the base gets pushed first before the side. This is sort of like pushing toothpaste out of a tube, right? You push it from the downwards up, and it would push the blood into the aorta. Okay, then right after that, there is ventricular systole, right? We talk about atrial systole and then ventricular systole. Now it's diastole. During diastole, this is what we call the refractory period, where it is a period of insensitivity to any stimulation. So it will not respond to any electrical impulses, or it will not respond, the heart will not respond to any wave of excitation, right? It will just be relaxed. The whole heart will be relaxed for 0.4 seconds. And of course, the atrial and ventricular muscles will also relax, and therefore this is called diastole. So this picture here and this little diagram here is to show you what happens where. So at atrial systole, SAN is generating that electrical signal, passes to AVN, has a time delay of 0.1 seconds, so atrial systole is 0.1 seconds long. And then it passes to Purkyne tissue, which then conducts it through the ventricles, conducts that impulse through the ventricles, and therefore ventricles contract, so ventricular systole occurs. This valves open, and then there's diastole during the refractory period. So that's the control of the heart. This control of the heartbeat. Okay, all due to the electrical signals passed from one tissue to another. Now, let's talk about something else that is related to this, which is electrocardiography. Cool, right? So this is the sound you hear in Korean dramas when the heroine is dying but not really. So it goes like dee 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 dee, and then it goes like dee when someone dies, right? So this is it. The machine that sort of measures this is called electrocardiogram. So this is electrocardiography, and what is it used for is to measure heart rate and regularity of the heartbeat. So if it's normal, then it will look like this. Fast heartbeat, then you can see more peaks in a certain amount of time. Slow heartbeat, less peaks here. And regular heartbeat, like sort of fast and then slow with a little gap in there. Anyways, it records the wave of electrical activity. So it's not heartbeat actually, it's waves of electrical activity. They put some electrodes here to detect the electrical activity going on. And what comes out on the screen is this wave here. So with the P wave, the QRS complex, and the T wave. All you need to know is the P wave is atrial systole, where the impulse is spreading from the SAN to the atria. QRS is ventricular systole, and this is very, very steep because ventricular systole, a lot of pressure here, a lot of electrical impulses that's going on here. And then T is the recovery wave, where the electric impulse sort of like stop, and that that actually results in what we call recovery. So it's slowing down, but there's still wave. So that's all you need to know. What happens at each alphabet, pretty much. It's always going to be PQRST. That's the name of the wave. Okay, it's always going to be labeled PQRST. So one more thing you need to learn here is how to calculate the heart rate in beats per minute from an electrocardiogram. So what if they give you something like this? Will you be able to calculate how many beats happen in a minute? Now don't forget that 1 beat is equivalent to 1 cardiac cycle. So you need to find out how long 1 cardiac cycle is. So okay, since it's P, Q, R, S, T, okay, and P here is atrial systole, QRS is ventricular systole, and T here is diastole. You can just look for where it starts and where it ends here and find out 1 cardiac cycle. Alternatively, you can just measure the distance between 2 peaks. Okay, but this is proper, right? You look for the 1 cardiac cycle. The atrial systole, the ventricular systole, and the diastole. P, QRS, T, P, Q, R, S, and then T is here. So from here, we can see that the cardiac cycle is 0.8 seconds. Okay, number 2, you gotta find out how many beats per minute, right? So you gotta find out how many cardiac cycles occur per minute. So take 1 minute and divide it by 0.8 seconds, which is 60 seconds divided by 80 seconds, and you end up with 75 beats per minute. And this is the heart rate. So whenever they give you a diagram and ask you for the heart rate, now you know how to calculate it. And with that, we have ended. Part 2 is all about the cardiac cycle, about different components of the heart, and about how the cardiac cycle is controlled. So this graph here about all the different pressures, the ventricular volume, the electrocardiogram, and phonogram, these are all things you should know, and you should know in detail what occurs at atrial systole, ventricular systole, and diastole. And that's it for me. That's all for this video. See you next time. Bye.